So Microsoft announced the Xbox One today, and with it is something that could be bad for us. It sounds like there's going to be some kind of a tax or a fee for pre-owned and used games and traded games on this system.
Yeah, when you call it a tax, suddenly it hit me right in the gut.
Yes.
Because that's kind of what it feels like. So what it looks like, they've said, this is I think from a Wired article, and a Eurogamer kind of had an interview around it as well. What it looks like what's going to happen is that new games you'll be able to play on your console, no problem. But if you have a pre-owned game, then you may have to pay a slight fee to be able to play it on your console.
Yeah, I think this is crazy. Was my initial reaction to this, because when we buy like a physical medium, when we buy like a CD or a Blu-ray or a book or a video game, for instance, we own it and we can do what we want. And I can lend my copy of Alice Madness Returns to you, and you can play it. And I can borrow your copy of Shadows of the Damned. And like this is kind of what happens with video games, and it's been like that for 30, 40 years.
It's a big part of the culture, is swapping around and seeing new stuff, and because to buy every game is it's expensive pastime. It's the best of times. So yeah.
So I don't like. What do you think Microsoft is trying to accomplish with this? Is from like a consumer standpoint, like how are they going to spin this or sell this to people like you and me who buy systems and games?
Like the only parity I can see is in relation to digital media, and that like stuff like iTunes and the App Store and Xbox Live Arcade, these are all tied to our profiles and to our online identities. So in a way we're kind of used to this, but it's what side of the digital like valley do games exist on? Are they a media like you were saying, books and CDs? You know, because then you think of like, you know, books now and Kindle are kind of going that way, and then iTunes and music and film, like in many ways most of the stuff you watch now are either rented or watched on services like Netflix. So like the digital commodity, or the lack of commodity with digital stuff, like even with Steam, has become the sort of the day-to-day of purchasing media. So are they ahead of the curve? Was this just always going to happen, but it's a shock because it's happened now?
I guess for me there still is a separation between like if I can physically hold something or if I download it. So I'm kind of used to like Amazon Music. I'm used to like that is just an MP3.
Sure.
And I understand that. But so I guess it feels like they're trying to get ahead of the curve, but the technology for like downloading 12 gig games is still not there. So they still need the disc, and they want like the best of both worlds. And that's kind of like the scary thing, is like, are people really going to accept like Call of Duty Ghost is tied to my system and I can't let anybody else play that? I don't know if they're going to accept that. And that's like, I think it's a big advantage for Nintendo, Nintendo and Sony going forward, is if they can say, hey, if you buy a game, you actually own that game, as opposed to, you know, the bits that you install on your system.
It's going to be an interesting one. When the console comes out, they haven't set a price yet.
Nope.
They haven't set a date yet. We know it's sometime this year. It's not going to be backwards compatible with old Xbox 360 games either. And then you think you can't play secondhand games on it either, where they're paying an extra bit of money. You're like, just give me something. You know, it's like, it's just that it's an expensive pastime in the best of days, but it seems like, you know, let's start saving our pennies now.
So, I mean, it brings up the question of how are you going to try before you buy if you can't rent or borrow beforehand?
Yeah, I wonder what they're going to do in terms of the demo market. One of the best things about Xbox Live Arcade is that every game has a demo. And I think that's a really good thing. We haven't really seen demos like in PlayStation 2 and Xbox One era. There were so many more demos. PlayStation 1, like practically every big game had a sizable demo. It was how you sold your game to consumers. So I wonder, you know, is that something that they'll try to reintroduce again? Because if the cost of the game is going to be so high, and then maybe it's not going to drop in price as quickly as it used to, then you really want to make sure you like the game before you get it. So possibly adding more demos into the marketplace is a way of, you know, making people trust that it's a good product.
I guess for me personally, I need that progress that I make in a demo to carry over for a game, or else I feel like I'm just kind of replaying the same old stuff if I do decide to buy. So that's one of the drawbacks for me, is that I don't really want demos. I want like a complete game that I can play. And I don't know how they're going to address this going forward. So how do you feel about this? Is this like an unfair tax for consumers, or is this something that we expect in the future of games, that we don't really own games anymore? Tell us in the comments below.